I wanted to be a librarian the first time I set foot in a library. I was always a little different, even at that age, and libraries offered a safe, quiet space where I could find tens of thousands of escapes into worlds of fantasy, mystery, and intrigue. After finishing college, I entered the workforce as a middle school librarian, where I was able to bring that dream full circle and match my students with the perfect books. Now, I get to experience that same type of fulfillment in a very different way here at CIA. I love my job because I have no idea what type of research question is coming through the door next. It might be as simple as an HR officer needing to clarify a law, or as complex as an analyst needing to help identify something they saw in a video still. There's something incredibly rewarding about knowing you are having a very real impact of potentially global proportions. As an agency librarian, I work to ensure that our collection and services are matched up with what CIA needs. Not only am I involved in the acquisitions of journals, books, and countless electronic resources, I'm also encouraged to curate special collections that challenge expectation. Recently, I brought in our intelligence gaming collection to give officers unique opportunities to practice skills they need in their various roles. Instead of sitting for hours in front of a computer-based training, they can play a carefully selected game to train a specific set of skills while simultaneously building on the myriad soft skills essential to intelligence work. My favorite thing about CIA is that they encourage the out-of-the-box ideas that drive real progress. Growing up gay in a small southern town, I was lucky to have a wonderful and accepting family. I always struggled with the idea that I might not be able to discuss my personal life at work. Imagine my surprise when I was taking my oath at CIA and I noticed a rainbow on then-Director Brennan's lanyard, which I later learned was designed by Angle, one of the many employee resource groups here at the agency. I remember being stunned. Since then, however, I've learned that far beyond the resource groups, inclusion is a core value here. Officers from the top down work hard to ensure that every single person, whatever their gender, gender identity, race, disability, or sexual orientation, can bring their entire self to work every day.
Our nation was founded on a bedrock principle, that we are all created equal. The project of each generation is to bridge the meaning of those founding words with the realities of changing times. A never-ending quest to ensure those words ring true for every single American. My administration has been guided by that idea. It's why we stopped defending the so-called Defense of Marriage Act, and why we were pleased when the court finally struck down a central provision of that discriminatory law. It's why we ended Don't Ask, Don't Tell. From extending full marital benefits to federal employees and their spouses, to expanding hospital visitation rights for LGBT patients and their loved ones, we've made real progress in advancing equality for LGBT Americans in ways that were unimaginable not too long ago.
In the 1950s, we had what we called the Lavender Scare. And that came about because of the Senate hearings with McCarthy and President Eisenhower about the loyalty oath, who was loyal to the United States during the Cold War. And from the loyalty oath, it got to what about the homosexuals, the perverts that were in this organization within the federal government? Do we want them having access to any classified information? And the thought was absolutely not, that we could not be trusted. And that really set the stage for the federal government and for the CIA on our culture here.
I think life would have been difficult for LGBT in any government agency, but life in a government agency that's the tip of the spear in the Cold War is going to be particularly fraught and particularly, I think, scary, just because more people are paranoid and are paid to be paranoid more of the time.
Going back to 1975 and really into the early 80s, this agency had a policy that we would not hire gays, lesbians, etc.
There was still a lot of prejudices that existed here within the workplace. Individuals of different backgrounds were looked upon with some suspicion, and individuals of the gay community were not allowed in to the agency.
If someone admitted at some point during their processing that they were LGBT, it meant an immediate security disapproval. They were not going to come in the door because of that lifestyle.
I would sit at the lunch table with my peers, my fellow coworkers, and they said, "Oh, we don't hire those people. They're not allowed here." And they were pretty much adamant that I wasn't even allowed to be there. And here I was sitting right next to him. It was a miserable time in my life. I could not talk about my family. I could not talk about what I did over the weekend. It was just a horrible experience. And it kind of really went against everything the CIA had taught us at that point and still continues to this day. Honesty, integrity, standing up for yourself, standing up for the nation. And all of a sudden, I'm doing everything opposite of what they're actually encouraging you to do.
If you were known to be or thought to be an LGBT, you could be fired. You would lose your job, you would lose your career, sometimes your family. And that was a heavy burden on a lot of people. And so that was, so we lived in a lot of fear during that time frame.
Many foreign intelligence services used sexual exploitation as a tool to obtain national security information.
More than 90% communist agents are blackmailed. These people are not ideological supporters, but they are brutally blackmailed.
If somebody was in the closet, then there's a potential that they could be blackmailed for that.
In Moscow, the KGB targets not only low-ranking officials. Sometimes their blackmail extends right to the top. John Watkins was the Canadian ambassador to the Soviet Union in the late 50s when he was targeted for recruitment. William Kelly is the former head of the RCMP Security Service.
They knew he was a homosexual. He knew that they knew he was a homosexual.
Well, are you saying that he was being blackmailed by them?
In a kind of a way, yes. That he knew that they could embarrass him.
The agency recognized that and considered individuals who were trying to hide something, whatever it might be, were more susceptible to being blackmailed. And furthermore, if somebody was of that inclination, that we would fire them, regardless of what their contribution had been to this organization.
People usually think that the reason for the gay ban was the idea that they were vulnerable to blackmail. I think it was more than that. It's far more than that. That's too practical. It's really rather the sense that this is a deviant form of behavior. This is some sort of mental illness, and thus this meant that these people were somehow unstable and unreliable.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Any earnest employee who takes the agency and its mission very seriously, who takes the security aspects very seriously, who understands the seriousness of all of this, everything that's involved with getting a security clearance and being entrusted with classified information. The last thing any earnest employee wants to do is to lie. So to be put in a position to be obliged to lie is extraordinarily difficult and causes anguish.
Congratulations, you're now CIA officers.
I was hired in 1985. And the questionnaires that we had on our polygraph, they did specifically ask you, did you have any known homosexual relations or something in that nature? They were very specific on asking those questions. We all knew it, and everybody was just kind of, how do you answer that question?
To walk into a polygraph, not knowing if you're going to be walked out because of who you are, nothing to do with your job and how well you do your job and your intelligence, all because you're gay, it's devastating.
One of the experiences in my life that made me supportive of the LGBT community was the polygraph that I took early on when I was still a college student planning to come here, feeling that a particular group was oppressed, was treated differently because of who they are. That polygraph has stuck with me all of these years. Not because it was difficult to pass the polygraph or I didn't like the polygraph, but because I thought the question was inappropriate.
I feel, in retrospect, oddly complicit in the part of our history that didn't fully embrace who everyone was. I get it, that's not where we were historically, but if I could replay a moment, I would have loved, as a straight woman, to have just refused to participate in that line of questioning.
In the late 80s, when I was serving as the chief of staff to the DDS&T, there appeared on my desk a routing slip that was routing a personnel file through me, and it had come from the polygraph people in the Office of Security, and I believe an OTS employee had, during a polygraph, indicated that he was gay. And so the question from the Office of Security was, will this employee remain with us or will he be fired? And so I read through this and thought to myself, and there was his performance was impeccable. He had served repeatedly overseas. He admitted that he was gay. He had indicated during the polygraph, I believe, that never had he been approached in terms of blackmailing or compromising classified information or techniques or equipment or whatever. So there did not seem to be anything wrong other than the fact that he had said that he was gay. What I should have done, in retrospect, one always thinks of these things later, was written in the open part of the routing slip, what's the big deal here, boys?
The story of the end of the ban, or the transition at the agency, I think really begins in the 80s. And I think it begins with the Office of General Counsel and an investigation that the Office of General Counsel did in the effort to look into the merits of the ban against homosexuals. This was not a humanitarian-inspired investigation. Rather, the General Counsel at the time, named Stanley Sporkin, asked the question, does this make sense? Why are we doing this? And why is security doing this? Can security articulate, the Office of Security, articulate why exactly it had these policies? And part of the problem that they had, that this investigation revealed, was that the Office of Security could not really articulate exactly why this ban was in place.
The only thing that makes something exploitable is if it's taboo and has to be hidden. And so by taking the stance we did, we were almost forcing the behaviors that then became exploitable. So it's kind of logically inconsistent.
It was kind of a catch-22. If you were out, you couldn't be hired. But if you remained closeted, you could be blackmailed. So there was this kind of vicious little cycle about how we were going to treat individuals.
I just think we were so insular, so focused, so concerned about security that it caused us to believe that how we were was how we must be.
As the sexual revolution happened, there was a real opening up of people being willing to talk about their sexuality and to be content and proud and willing to share their lifestyle. And that began to have an effect on how security and counterintelligence viewed people with what was then called an alternative lifestyle. It was, well, wait a minute, if it's not hidden anymore, is it a vulnerability? Well, guess what? Ultimately, the security process evolved so that it was determined that if everybody knows about it, where's the vulnerability? Therefore, there is no question about that person being able to be trustworthy and loyal and reliable.
We were turning away many, many qualified applicants for a variety of reasons, one of which was their open acknowledgement that they were gay.
We'd like to have hard and fast rules, and the easiest and hard and fast rule is no. And getting to yes can sometimes be a big challenge.
So management decided to take a risk management approach to the situation. Obviously, if somebody revealed on the polygraph that they were gay, but they would never admit it, that they wouldn't tell their family members or anybody else, that would still be a problem. However, part of that risk management philosophy was that if the person can't be exploited for it, then it should not be a problem.
There were, much darker times, and particularly in those years when Tracey was just trying to found Angle in the early 90s, it was not a welcoming place. People like Tracey had to convince the leadership as to why this minority should be welcomed, should be embraced, should be considered fully part of the mission, not a security threat.
I know change for many of our LGBT brothers and sisters must have seemed so slow for so long. But compared to so many other issues, America's shift has been so quick.
Myself and two other coworkers worked at Building 213, which is the National Photographic Interpretation Center. The atmosphere in the building was extremely oppressive. And there were anonymous databases that were meant for work-related questions and ways that officers could discuss topics of interest. And for some strange reason, those databases over a period of time touched on the topic of homosexuality.
Among the documents that Tracey shared with me, it's like 100 pages of downloaded conversation threads from those databases where people would chat, these chat rooms. And it's horrifying to read. Some of them were anonymous, but some of them felt comfortable openly writing the most horrifying things about Tracey, Sharon, about LGBT in general, things that are just crude and unkind. And it's really hard to imagine being in an environment in which that was still or ever socially acceptable to say things like this about one's fellow colleagues.
They were very anti-gay. They had every stereotype that you can imagine they threw out, every religious belief they were throwing out.
And what we realized was these were our coworkers, these were our peers that were talking about us in such a way that made us feel inhuman. So I got on and I outed myself yet again, but I didn't do it anonymously. I attached my name to it and outed myself to the whole community that was using those databases.
By putting a face to it, by saying, here I am, this is me, and I'm not just this abstract thing that you can vilify, because it's easy to vilify something that's abstract, but rather here I am. I think that, well, I'm sure it made a lot of people very uncomfortable, but by making people uncomfortable in this way, this forces them to think. If somebody's invisible, you don't know that they're there, then you don't know that there's even an issue, and you can dismiss it, and you can avoid it. But if you realize that, no, actually they're here and they might be my colleagues, I work with this person, then you can no longer avoid it.
President Clinton signed Executive Order 12968 in August 1995. And that was really about allowing individuals, regardless of race, creed, sexual orientation, or gender, access to classified information, which meant now that anybody with the appropriate skills could come and serve their country in the intelligence community here at the agency.
The United States government.
The United States government.
The United States government.
Does not
discriminate.
On the basis of
race,
color,
religion,
sex,
national origin,
disability, or sexual orientation.
In granting access.
Access to classified information.
To classified information.
Classified information.
In determining eligibility.
For access.
Under this order.
Agencies may investigate
and consider
any matter that relates to the determination
of
whether access
is clearly consistent
with the interests of national security.
No inference concerning the standards. Concerning the standards in this section
may be raised solely on the basis
of the sexual orientation of the employee.
That's all well and good, but we all know a piece of paper does not change a culture. And because of the way our culture has evolved, it's a slow process to change people's mind. I mean, you have a piece of paper, but that piece of paper doesn't change our internal policies. It doesn't change our internal regulations. It doesn't change the way people were used to doing things.
One is just the letter of the law, and the other is people's behavior. I think what we're really trying to get to is cultural change. Policy changes is one dimension, but the deeper and more lasting change is the cultural change. And that always is going to lag behind policy changes.
But today should also give us hope that on the many issues with which we grapple, often painfully, real change is possible. Shifts in hearts and minds is possible.
So the ground's already shifting, which means now there's some ambiguity in the policy. And from what Tracey's told me, the creation of Engel and her activism comes a lot out of trying to push against ambiguity. In a way, everything would be a lot simpler if there really were a black and white policy. But once you're away from a black and white policy, now we're into grays. And then the agency's having a hard time dealing with this, knowing what to do in terms of policy, hiring, clearances, et cetera, managing all the human resources issues, then now there's room to push.
I went up, talked to Sharon, and I says, you have to do this too. You have to do this. And she goes, well, I'm not so sure about that. I'm like, absolutely. More of us have to speak up. We have to raise our voices. We have to raise our hands. We have to be visible.
So what we have in the agency, what we have with Tracey and Sharon, is sort of a small instance of a much larger phenomenon that's going on across American culture, of a few very, very brave people who are sticking their necks out career-wise and taking all sorts of risks, doing it because they feel that this is what needs to be done, because it's right, and forcing all the rest of us to change along with them.
Yeah, that was a hard time. But it really came out of the fact that so many people felt that they had the right, the privilege, and the ability without impunity to speak their mind on about us, about a community of people that they worked with, and they could do it in such a derogatory fashion. And I think that's really what kicked it off.
Progress on this journey often comes in small increments. Sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back, propelled by the persistent effort of dedicated citizens. And then sometimes there are days like this, when that slow, steady effort is rewarded with justice that arrives like a thunderbolt.
Engel was really a trailblazer when it wasn't popular in many quarters to promote inclusion and to advance the interests of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. Engel had its voice heard here.
I do believe that a small number of committed people can affect a large organization. And I think Engel is a good example of that. I think people who are courageous and willing to make statements and support their ideas and support one another had an effect on everybody else.
It would have been so easy for the agency and agency managers to say, okay, the agency policy is we will now accept gay, lesbian, transgender, et cetera, and then be silent on the issue. But Engel kept the issue front and center.
A strong Engel group
that advocates on behalf of its constituency is important to the agency because it does raise awareness of issues that people might not think of on a day-to-day basis. I think it helps educate people on issues. These are agency officers, these are colleagues that have the same issues and the same challenges. So I think Angle in particular has been very effective at advocating on issues that are uniquely representative of its constituency.
So where we are today, from where we started to where we are today, leaps and bounds ahead. Where before we were really struggling to get a policy changed, where it could take years to make a request, to put the request in for the policy, even write up a lot of the language for it, till the time it became implemented, it would take years.
One of my mantras were from day one, this is going to be iterative. This is going to this will take time. We will make some quick wins, but we're really looking at a long-term goal. We're really looking at a long-term payoff. And until we get Congress and until we get the Supreme Court, until we get a change in the global law on our side, it's just going to be a series of steps.
Today, we're at a place where this organization actually comes to us to say, well, what are we missing? Well, what can we do better? And that's a pretty amazing place to go to jump from where you're not even welcome to how can we help you? What do we need to do now? And really, when we started Angle, it was about starting a conversation to help the next person. I didn't really realize at the time it was going to take the swath of what it did, of what we've done, what it's accomplished, that so many people would become involved with it. I really didn't see that. I just wanted to ensure, my main goal was to go, okay, let's talk about this. We started having a table at Family Day in the late 90s. And the first year we went, nobody would come to my table. A lot of whispers, a lot of pointing. Nobody would stop by the table. That was okay. I was there. That's all that mattered. The next couple years, that was still happening a little bit. But what I found was family members were coming to the table going, really? You're here. This is so great. I was not expecting this. You mean my daughter can come and work here? And these were officers. And I'm like, absolutely, yes, you can. Or a retired officer going, I would have never seen this. This is amazing. This is the best thing ever. Angle has worked with CMDI to do outreach into the LGBT community because it's so important that we change the perception of who this organization is within the community because there's so many myths out there. It still surprises me that people believe they cannot be hired here at this organization because of who they are. When we go to DC Pride, our outreach officers are going to be there, a couple recruiters, officers from Angle are all going to be there.
Hi guys, come check out our booth. You guys want to check out the CIA's booth?
We're mainly out here to bring awareness that CIA is all-inclusive, and a lot of people look at the CIA and think, hey, I can't work there because I'm gay or lesbian, so they automatically self-cancel themselves out before they even go online and apply. But we've come a long way, so we're just trying to build awareness and let people know that we're out here.
I think this is the perfect opportunity to recruit. You got tons of different people, different backgrounds, young people, students, people with experience out in the intelligence community. So this is a great place to recruit.
We do have a popular booth out here. We always seem to have a popular booth wherever we go. And it's just more opportunity to get the word out there about the agency and the diversity and inclusion practices that we have, and to let them know about the job opportunities and internships that we have as well.
Last year, one of our allies came and worked the table with us. And she walked away, she goes, they hugged me. They came up and they gave me this hug because they were so happy we were here. They were so happy that we have changed and that we were inviting them to our table.
I just think it's wonderful. You all have been around for 20 years. The National Archives Group, we're just celebrating our second birthday. So you're an inspiration to us.
Our attitudes and philosophies towards the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender community can be exported across the IC and perhaps even beyond.
One thing that has been really helpful in moving the FBI culture forward has been having engagement with the broader intelligence community and all of their LGBT organizations, so like ANGLE and IC Pride, which is the intelligence community LGBT affinity group. If it weren't for Tracey and my connection and conversations with her, I don't know that I would have had the courage and the ability to stand up and start something at FBI.
I think for any group that feels disenfranchised, they're enthused, they're more courageous, and they feel they have support when their leaders speak out on their behalves, when their leaders make it okay for people to accept their ideas, when their leaders make it inappropriate for people to discriminate against a particular group because of their beliefs or ideas or who they are. So if their leadership is providing support, power of allies, it makes it okay to accept new ideas. It makes it okay to support those new ideas. And it makes it okay to change.
Allies are key to everything you do, particularly in the LGBT community, particularly here at this organization. They can give you entree into places you would never have before. They can give you a voice that perhaps would take you a long time to find. So without the allies, it takes a tremendous amount of effort and time to get where you're going.
There's really two ways that I look at being an ANGLE ally. One is being an ally just as an agency employee, as I think anybody in the agency ought to be. And that's a way of conveying respect, inclusion, love, acceptance, making sure that LGBT employees have all the collegiality, respect, and support that they deserve, that everybody deserves. The other way I approach it is I've had the privilege, the honor of serving in some senior agency positions, and those have given me maybe some special opportunities and abilities to make a difference. So being an ANGLE ally as a senior officer, I think has led to a feeling of greater support and reassurance.
Once we got some allies on board, some high senior allies on board and understood, the change happened very rapidly.
Small groups of people are the ones who change the world. That's how change happens. I think that's where you get creativity, that's where you get innovation, that's where you get a push to change, because the majority is probably more interested in the status quo. But I think that's exactly the crux of what we're talking about here today. It's about valuing minorities, valuing differences of opinions and perspectives.
This morning, the Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality. In doing so, they've reaffirmed that all Americans are entitled to the equal protection of the law, that all people should be treated equally, regardless of who they are or who they love.
So CIA officers often have to serve in silence. It's part of our job. We don't get to take credit for the accomplishments that CIA does day in and day out to keep this nation safe. At the same time, it's not appropriate to think that our officers can't bring their full selves to work each day and have to serve in that type of silence.
We expect a lot of our individual officers. We tell them that we expect the highest levels of personal integrity from them. And if we as an institution do not demonstrate that and show that on a daily basis, how are the people who are part of the organization going to feel about our requirements for their integrity?
I could never reconcile being an institution that values integrity and that, yes, asks so many young people, so many, not just young anymore, but I mean so many people to come to work every single day and lie about who they are. And that was greatly intensified because I had young people who were dying in wars. So what I found was essentially focusing on that aspect of it, the argument almost became irrefutable. It moved the discussion. It changed the terms of reference from that about sex to that about values. And what it then did was allow us to be much more inclusive of a talent pool that we cherished and be consistent in terms of what we valued as an institution.
You need to make sure that people feel free to identify and to be who they are. And that's what this agency is about.
Because for all our differences, we are one people, stronger together than we could ever be alone. That's always been our story. We are big and vast and diverse, a nation of people with different backgrounds and beliefs, different experiences and stories, but bound by our shared ideal that no matter who you are or what you look like, how you started off, or how and who you love, America's a place where you can write your own destiny.
You cannot be an intelligence organization and not embrace diversity. We are a business about possibility, about ideas, about hypothesis, and test, and looking at things from a different direction. If you ever allow yourself to become common in how you look at problems, you will fail as an intelligence organization. So for us, diversity is our lifeblood.
When I joined the organization, people were not comfortable looking different. They were looking at, trying to become the IBM model of the blue suit, the black suit, the appropriate red tie, the white shirt, and all the rest of that stuff. And I think over the years we've changed, and we're no longer looking for that cookie cutter approach to our workforce.
There's not one mold that makes an agency officer. You're not successful because you're just white, or you're black, or female, or male, or heterosexual, or homosexual. The only way the agency works is you bring in different perspectives, different ideas, different diversities, different backgrounds. If we were all the same, all talk the same, that just goes to monumental groupthink.
What I would like to see is for our agency really to look and feel and be like the country we represent.
Every time I think about diversity among communities and within CIA and as part of the LGBT sort of effort, we really want to make sure that people understand that everybody is enriched by this. It's not just individuals who are being included after being resisted for years. Everybody is enriched by it.
It is important for organizations to have a strong culture of LGBT inclusion because it makes us a better organization. It makes us better at the mission. It allows us to think more creatively about problems. If you have the more people you have in the room with different experiences and different sets of challenges that they've faced in life, the more likely you are going to be able to look at that problem in a new light and be able to change your team's perspective on something and really come up with the best possible solution.
The whole issue of diversity is critical in terms of, in particular, improving mission effectiveness, which is goal one at the CIA, and that's tied to talent and putting the best talent in the best place at the best time.
If this great institution of the CIA is going to thrive in the future, we really need to be able to have a workforce that is at the top of its game. I want this agency to be the employer of choice of people from all backgrounds, because we have a global mission and diversity is what we should be aspiring to every day.
What an extraordinary achievement. What a vindication of the belief that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. What a reminder of what Bobby Kennedy once said about how small actions can be like pebbles being thrown into a still lake, and ripples of hope cascade outwards and change the world. Those countless, often anonymous heroes, they deserve our thanks. They should be very proud. America should be very proud.
I'm quite proud of how far the agency has come and what individual officers here have done to try to promote an environment and a culture of inclusion that I think is something that the agency workforce is quite proud of.
By taking a stand
and by generously supporting her brothers and sisters throughout the agency, particularly with the founding of Angle. Ms. Ballard helped lead the way in achieving an agency culture that values all talent without exception, enabling CIA to better meet its essential mission. For staying true to her identity.
Clearly, a lot of credit goes to Tracey and the group that she worked with to keep this on the forefront and to not be intimidated and not give up hope and not back down, because the agency can sometimes be a difficult beast to change. It's sort of like steering the proverbial battleship. It takes a long time and it's hard and you have to stick with it or it's simply not going to happen.
I just decided that I couldn't sit down and not do anything to change the culture of the FBI when so many people, Tracey especially, had done so much to change the culture before me and to make our workplaces safer and to allow me to be out at work and to allow me to start to change the culture.
It's easy to walk away from a problem, particularly a problem at work, because people might distinguish between their personal lives and their work lives. And even if they want to do the best thing at work, they might throw up their arms in frustration. I think that's unfair to the organization we joined. I think if we joined this organization, we have a commitment to the organization and to the people who follow us to make this a better place.
Something else that Tracey told me when we were talking about how I could start something at the FBI was just be the best officer you can be. You know, absolutely do this work, push for LGBT inclusion wherever you can, but always make sure that you are the best officer, the best analyst you can possibly be, because if your work is impeccable and you are also pushing for this change, they can't really touch you. And I have been lucky enough to find that to be true.
Everybody has an equal footing in here, and that nobody has to have that same struggle that I went through and those before me went through. And I think that, to me, that's the most important thing that I could have done at this organization, because it allowed it to grow. It's allowed this organization to grow.
As a CIA analyst, I was always taught that one has to be really, really careful when doing analysis to try to identify unspoken assumptions, prejudices, things that might filter my analysis of a certain situation. If I can become cognizant of them, and if I can clear them away, then I can get a much clearer idea. My lens is now clear and I can see the truth. It now appears self-evident that there shouldn't be any discrimination. And I guess that's the remarkable part. Only now, within the last 10 years, does it seem self-evident, and we kind of scratch our heads and wonder, why was this ever an issue anyways to begin with?
It was antithetical to be an organization that was about truth and not want to have an environment where everyone could be true. A strong LGBT community is important because it speaks to who we are. We're either for truth or we're not. We either want everyone to be their whole selves or not.
We all have our own truths. And when we share them and when we let them go and release the truth and the fear that may be holding that truth back, it releases you as a person and it gives you the space to grow. So absolutely. Absolutely.
There's so much more work to be done to extend the full promise of America to every American. But today we can say, in no uncertain terms, that we've made our union a little more perfect. That's the consequence of a decision from the Supreme Court, but more importantly, it is a consequence of the countless small acts of courage of millions of people across decades who stood up, who came out, folks who were willing to endure bullying and taunts and stayed strong and came to believe in themselves and who they were. And slowly made an entire country realize that love is love.